Hi everyone, so today we're going to work on the quadratic formula, which is another method in solving a quadratic. I hope you find this method a little easier than what we were working on with completing the square. Most people do. Some people though really like completing the square, so their choice. So we're going to be able to solve quadratics by using the quadratic formula. So what exactly is the quadratic formula? Well, if you remember, the original or the standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay? Now, one of the reasons for completing the square is that is the process to derive the quadratic formula. So, if you're watching this video, I will gladly give you 5 bonus points if you write, do a little research, do a little online hunting, and write down how they derive the quadratic formula from completing the square. And actually write it on a piece of paper with your name, like paper, well, no, sorry. I will email it to me. There we go. Email it to me, let's say by Wednesday, September 30th. If you email me how they derive the quadratic formula from completing the square, by Wednesday's class, you get 5 bonus points. Okay, so they do a whole lot of math, yada, 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 and they end up with x equals negative b plus or minus, or the opposite of b, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac whole thing over 2a. Okay, and that is our quadratic formula. So I'm going to put a big star by that because we need to know this. It's like Pythagorean theorem, y equals mx plus b. It's one of those things that you just have to know when dealing with algebra. Okay, so when can you use the quadratic formula? Anytime. Okay, they're only it works for any quadratic. It doesn't matter. The only thing, the stipulation, is it has to be in standard form. Okay, so it must be in standard form, which means that you should get 0 equals ax squared plus bx plus c form. Now, it could be ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Either side is fine, but it has to be in F form before you start, okay? Because otherwise your a, b's, and c's are all going to get messed up. All right, now, there is a part of the quadratic formula, which is the part that's underneath the square root sign. That's this guy right here. That is called the discriminant. And when you look at the discriminant and you do that computation, it will tell you how many solutions you have. Now remember, a quadratic has 1 solution, 2 solutions, or no solutions. So by looking at the discriminant, you're going to be able to tell whether it has 1, 2, or 0 solutions. So for example, if your discriminant is greater than 0, we'll see what kind of solution it is. So I'm going to take b squared, which would be negative 6, and I'm going to square that, minus 4. A is from the square term, so that's 1, and c is 7. And I'm going to do the computation here. So 36 minus 28, okay, which gives me a positive 8, which means there's a positive number underneath the square root sign, which means there are going to be 2 distinct solutions. All right. So what happens if we're equal to 0? Okay, so b is negative 6, minus 4, a is 1, and c is positive 9. So we get 36 minus 36, which is 0, which means we're dealing with the square root of 0, which means in the formula, we just have b over 2a because the square root of 0 is 0, which means there's only 1 solution. Okay, so if you have a positive number underneath the square root, you're going to get 2 answers. If you have equal to 0 or 0 underneath the square root, you're going to get 1 answer. And if you're less than 0, 36 minus 44, which means the number underneath the square root sign is -8. You're not going to have any solutions because that's a negative underneath the square root sign. And that means it does not cross the x-axis. That means it's a problem. All right, so we haven't talked about that yet. And that's going to be a discussion for another day. All right, so how do we actually compute these answers, zeros or roots, solutions? All right, so let's take a look at the first problem. -3x squared minus 2x plus 4. All right, so first, I kind of got the idea what a, b, and c are. A is in front of the squared, b is in front of the x, and c is the constant. Okay. So to help you memorize it, always write the formula, because that way it becomes part of what you do. Okay. All right, substitute your values in. So remember, negative b, if b is negative, it's going to become a positive. So notice there's no variables here. It's all numbers, which is great. That's a lot easier to deal with. So x is equal to 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 plus 48, right? Yep. All over -6. Or 2 plus or minus the square root of 52 all over -6. And that is the exact representation of the solution. It's two answers because you can say 2 plus the square root of 52 all over -6, or you can say 2 minus the square root of 52 all over -6, and that's your two solutions. All right, let's try another one. All right, here's a problem. It's not equal to 0. It's not in ax squared plus bx plus c form, so we're going to have to get it that way. So 3x squared, there's no x. I'm going to put 0x just to put a placeholder, plus 5 is equal to 0. So that means b is 0, so watch what happens. X equals 0 plus or minus the square root of 0 squared minus 4, a is 3, c is 5, all over 2 times 3. Okay, so if we keep doing the math here, do the computation, we're going to get -60 underneath our square root sign, which all over 6. Now remember, negative underneath the square root sign means that there is no solution here, which means it does not cross the x-axis. There are no values for x that you're going to be able to put into square and then multiply by 3 that you're going to get -5. Okay. All right, let's try this last one. Again, not in the form, so we're going to have to do a little math here to get it there. So we're going to have to clean this up. We're going to distribute the 4. And I'm going to subtract the 7. Okay, so now it's in the form. Okay, negative b plus or minus the square root of 4 squared minus 4, a is 4, c is -7, all over 2 times 4. Okay, equals -4 plus or minus the square root. We get 16 minus, I don't know what 16 times -7 is. It ends up being positive anyway. 112, so that's going to be plus 112 all over 8. I'll just add 16 here. Okay, 128. I don't believe that's a perfect square. It is not, so we're just going to leave it like that. If you happen to get a perfect square, just as a side note, so let's say you get -4 plus or minus the square root of 25 all over 2. You're going to want to do the square root. So we're going to get -4 plus or minus the square plus or minus 5 over 2. Create two equations. 4 plus 5 all over 2, and then 4 minus 5 all over 2. And then get your answers, let's say 9/2 and -1/2. Okay, so if that happens, that's what you're going to want to do there. All right, why don't you pause the video, try 2, 4, and 6 and see how it goes. Okay, so 2 was exactly that. I was able to get 2 solutions of 4 and negative 2. 4, I got 8/3 and negative 12. And again, if you got something different, please let me know. And then 6, I got just one solution of 2/3 because I got the square root of 0. Okay, now, one of the things that makes quadratic formula so useful is because you can use a lot more for application problems. And I really, really like that. Okay, something keeps working on my computer here. All right. Okay, so it makes a lot of application problems a lot easier. So let's try one. The principal at a high school is planning a concert to raise money for music programs. He determines the profit P for ticket sales depends on the price T of a ticket according to this equation. I apologize, that should be T squared. Negative 220T squared plus 3600T minus 6400. All amounts are in dollars. If the goal is to raise $8,500, what is the smallest amount that the school should charge for a ticket to the concert? Okay, so we want our profit to be $8,500, which means 8,500 goes in for P. Okay, so I know the numbers are large, and that's one of the things about the quadratic formula. You can deal with large numbers. So now we're going to set this equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract that 8,500. Okay, 14,900. All right, so as usual, I'm writing a little bit too big. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to apply the quadratic formula. In this case, it's going to be T, which is fine. Definitely going to need our calculator for the computations here. Now, unlike the solve problems, if we get a decimal, we're going to want the decimal form of our solution. And you can do that minus 4 times negative 220 times negative 14,900 all at once. Okay, and you're going to get a negative underneath the square root sign. That is not right. Did I do bad math somewhere? I feel like there's some kind of bad math. Or I totally copied the problem incorrectly, which is probably what happened. Right? Right. All right. Let me just try something here. All right, let's try, let's make this a positive number and make that, see if that works. Okay, so sometimes you just mess up. So let's try it again. Okay, that's a very large number that we're going to take the square root of. Okay. right, that's better. Okay, we're going to round to 2 decimal places. All right, so let's see if I still need to do that calculator. So we're going to make that a positive. All right, let's see what happens. All right, because I messed up. So what else is new, right? Negative 3600 plus 3333.47, boom, divided by negative 220. What's the smallest amount of the school should charge? $1.21. Okay, so one of the solutions is $1.21, and then negative 3600 minus 3333.47 divided by negative 220, and, or 420. Why do people not tell me I'm messing up? Yeah, I putzed up. Negative 440. Okay, yes, I know. So negative 6933.47 divided by negative 440. Okay, so that's $15.75 per ticket. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense than $1.21. Okay. All right. Try the next one. See how it goes. Sorry about that. All right. So pause the video and see how it goes. I think this one works a little better. So we're going to set it equal to 100 copies of the book. We'll do the math. I get 15.54. We can't have 15. We've got to go to the one up for 16 days. And you can't have a negative number of days. So we're not going to use that one. All right. Hopefully I didn't confuse you. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day.